Hello everyone, and welcome back to Canal Sidings for video number 8, I think it is. It seems my videos have now developed a bit of a style, which is various things that I've done throughout the period between the videos, and a chronicle of those and on each video, rather than just a hodgepodge of things that I started out doing. So without further ado, let's move on and have a look at some more of the progress on the layout. So what you're looking at now is an aerial view of my fallow car system test track. It's just built on a piece of 6mm MDF that I happen to have laying about. And I've tried out many different radii and different changes of direction, and also it crosses over several times, but that is actually only done so that it's just a continuous run, so I can try all the things out every time. And if I put a vehicle on it, switch it on, it will run round all day following the lines. Now the way that I cut these lines, the way that I cut the slots I should say, is using my alpha cutter, which is this. It happens to have exactly a 5.5mm wide blade, which is perfect for the 0.5mm thick wire. So I simply marked out the curves using a compass, and the straight lines using a scriber, and then followed those grooves that I'd made initially with the alpha cutter. I then pushed the wire into the slots. It's best to start at the point you want to start at by putting a right angle bend in the wire and drilling just over 0.5mm hole down through the slot, and dropping the bend in the wire through the slot. That means it won't keep coming out as you move along. Got that tip from somebody on the internet, I can't remember who. And then what I did after that was just dribbled in, once I pushed it into the slot, I dribbled round some very thin cyanoacrylate, and then using this piece of wood, which you can see is now really shiny because it's got cyanoacrylate all over it, I just rubbed that over the top to get everything as smooth as I possibly could, so there was no cyano sticking up. It also helped to dry the cyano as well. And yes, I did stick my fingers together many times. I stuck my screwdriver to the wire, but it all turned out okay in the end. I have several radii that I've been checking. This one here was the one I hoped I would be able to use for the extensions at the end of Canal Sidings, so that I can bring the trucks back onto the layout after they've gone through the goods yard. However, that was much too tight. That is 3-inch radius. This one here is 3.5-inch radius, and that one is quite successful. As you can see, this vehicle goes round it perfectly okay, and if I take another vehicle which is very much longer, which way am I going? That way. It will also go round it okay. Now that vehicle hasn't got a flat battery. I have been experimenting with reducing the speed of the vehicles, and I slowed that one down to a much more sedate pace, which is going to be much more useful running through an unmetalled road on the sidings. All I've done is just increase the size of the natural resistor that Fowler use to get most of the vehicles running at what they consider a good speed, and their speed is okay, I suppose, for a road. I think generally it's still a bit too fast for roads. but I won't have any vehicles with that much wheelbase, and this is just about, it just runs off there where it really tightens up, but it does actually manage to stay on track. If I run it the other way, it actually stays on all the way round. As I say, I won't have any vehicles that have got that much, that are that long, and that stayed on all the way round there. Just gets a little bit tight there. I think there's a kink in it here somewhere, that's why it doesn't like it. What I've also done, I'll go back to a faster vehicle now. I've also been experimenting with stop magnets and vehicle detection reed switches, which I'll move the camera, get the scope out and show you a little more about how the reed switches work and where the magnets are going to go. I now have everything set up so that you can see the scope and the detection reed here. So what I'll do is I'll run a vehicle and you can see the scope pick it up as it crosses the reed switch. Just coming round now. There it is, and there it is. As you can see, that vehicle running at normal speed has been picked up, and this is about 100 milliseconds. Which is why I have to use a scope, can't use a meter, because it just won't pick it up. When the scope is high, the reed is off. When the scope is low, the reed is closed. And you'll notice that there's an opening in the middle. That turns out to be when the magnet on the vehicle, which is simply the guide magnet here, when that magnet crosses the reed, right in the centre where the magnet is coincident with the contacts of the reed, the contacts open. I guess that's somehow some weird magnetic effect, but it happens with every reed switch that I've got, and it also happens with the reed switches that are actually on the vehicles here for stopping. The same effect occurs. So that's basically how the reed works. You've seen how I'm going to fit them. Next thing, we'll have a look at the stop points. Okay, I'll set up this time so that you can see the tiny little magnet here, and I'm going to run the vehicle over it. In this direction it won't stop, but if I reverse the direction of the vehicle and run over it the other way, in the other direction, the vehicle will stop. Bit of a jerky stop, I'd like to sort that out, but I haven't come up with an idea yet. The reason that it only works in one direction is because the pickup magnet is on this side of the vehicle. So when it's running this way, the magnet is underneath the reed. When it's running the other way, the reed is on this side and doesn't see the magnet. I can probably exploit that on my system where I have vehicles running in both directions on the same piece of wire. Not simultaneously, I hope. That's what the computer control will stop. Okay, so we've now seen everything that I've played with in terms of the Fowler car system. That's as far as I've got. What I now intend to do is show you a bit more progress elsewhere on the layout. So I'll just move the camera again and I'll be back. There's also been some progress on the Lancashire and Yorkshire warehouse. As you can see, I've now added a base to it, which is all the way round, which is 4mm thick, which now allows all the wagons, like this one, to run under nice and easily. All the brickwork is now done and coloured, but this is the pre-weathering colour. There is some more weathering to add to it, and I've also added the names, Lancashire and Yorkshire Bonded Goods Warehouse, which are the transfers supplied to me by Brendan at ghostsigns.co.uk, and very good they are. I have to say that's the second set I've added. The first set I put on were his very faded ones, which I was convinced would be the right ones, and they were so faded that they disappeared into my brickwork altogether and were almost impossible to read. So I've actually used the less faded ones that he gave me, and I think they've come out very well, and they will sink in a little further to the background once all the weathering is done. There's still a lot of work to do on the warehouse. It has no glazing yet. The roof is just a temporary piece of flat black plasticard, and there is no interior detail at all, or lighting, so there's lots more to do, and I will make gradual progress on that as time goes by. What else have I done on it? Not very much actually. It's all done in the same way, using coloured pencils, only this time I simply used one colour for the brickwork, which is dark brown. Used a whole dark brown pencil on it, and I used a couple of other pencils here and there to just change the overall colour a little bit, so that I get a rather faded old look before, of course, all the weathering is done. The intention is that there will be a concrete apron here and over here, and there will be a way, which I haven't quite figured out yet, of vehicles being able to get to and from there. The moving vehicles, the Fowler car system derived vehicles, will not move along there. They will come out at this end of the warehouse where you see this red truck, and they will run along the front here and disappear off onto the other board. So really that's it for the progress on the warehouse. That will be ongoing as we do future videos, and we're going to have a look at something else that I've been doing this month. And here's something else that I've been working on, which started life as a Pocket Bond Classics die-cast model, and I have now converted it using the drive mechanism steering out of a Fowler bus, and with a lot of metal cutting and plastic cutting and the odd expletive, I have actually managed to get it to go. I haven't finished it yet, so therefore it doesn't have its own power source. It's running off of this power supply. It's running off of a power supply. It's currently running as if it was directly across the 2.4 volt battery. I actually intend to run it much nearer that sort of speed through my goods yard. And it does have a slightly dodgy wheel. It wasn't an original bus wheel. It's one that I bought, not a Fowler product, a Fowler copy, and it's not exactly round. One of the tyres on it is very poor, but it works, and because it bucks about a bit like that, it could, on what has to be a smooth road, it could look as if it's going along a rather rutted surface. Anyway, we'll see how that goes later on. I'll just give you a quick close-up of what I had to do. Here we have the vehicle, and I'll just move the lamp a little because you can't see that very well. So that was only a heavy weight just fell down. What it's actually got inside it are the parts from a Fowler bus, the motor is there, and it runs vertically down through the chassis and drives the gear wheel underneath. The original chassis is this, but I've taken all of the axle drives away and simply left enough space to get the, oops, the cab's fallen off, it's not actually fixed, to get the Fowler bus part in. This is die cast and is one hell of a job to cut. I have mostly been using drills to drill it out and a slitting disc on a mini drill in order to actually be able to get through it. The plastic was much easier. The front end again has got a Fowler steering mechanism with the bus one, but with slightly larger wheels substituted, and that I simply put up onto a plastic fabrication and drilled some holes and pushed it into those holes, and that seems to work reasonably well. The cab is now completely empty, but I do still have the interior parts for the cab. This is where I had to drill it out to get it off, and I should be able to put a driver into it and make it look quite authentic. I have the roof as well, which is here, which is actually a plastic roof, so it's going to add nothing to the weight. But again, it won't go on because of the wires being in the way, etc. But it goes on something like that, which makes it a real covered van, which would have been used quite a lot in the 1950s by British Railways. And it's the right colour, so all it needs is a bit of weathering. I've also spent quite a lot of time trying to work out how to do the reversing loops at each end of the railway to allow the cars to go around and come back. And this was my first attempt, where vehicles come along here and they go round here, back round here and in again. The idea of not just going straight back out again was that I can mount it this way on, so that I have the longest side performing the job of mounting to the main baseboard. These are 3.5 inch radius, and I'm afraid they're still too tight. So that didn't work. So I have now done what we've just seen the vehicle running on, and these are 4.5 inch radius, and I've made myself a test track to prove that all vehicles will go round 4.5 inch radius in both directions, with an instant change of radius in the centre, sorry, of direction in the centre, just to make sure that everything works okay. So if I put a Fowler vehicle on, it will also do the same thing. I have slowed this one down a little, and it will happily go around that all day. Whereas on the other board that I showed you a moment ago, sometimes it would have an aberration and not want to work. This one was always very good. The converted vehicle didn't want to go around at all, but then it does weigh quite a lot and puts a lot more strain on the steering when you're on full lock. So I've got to work out exactly again how I'm going to do the loops at the end, whether I make this point here the entrance back into the railway so that I have a board about this size that sticks out, or whether I again try to come this way is going to depend upon what I decide when I've played about with it a little bit further. I do like the idea of a good solid connection between the mechanical connection between the main baseboard and this extension, and I shan't be making my extension boards out of 6mm MDF. I shall use 4 for the top and then 2 round the sides, etc. I'll also be putting 2 or 3 stop points around here so that we can hold several vehicles, some each at some one end, some the other end, so that we don't see the same vehicle going through all the time. And of course to control those stop points and to know when there is one available and be able to release a vehicle from it and shuffle the others up, is where part of the computer control for the automated road system is going to come from. It's going to have to do. So that's about it for this video. I've waffled on for long enough. All I can say now is thanks for watching. Please subscribe, tell your friends, give me some likes and give me some comments. I'm always happy to answer any queries you've got, or just to hear what you think about the railway. Am I doing it right? Would there things that you would do a different way? We've all got our own opinions, so it's up to you. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll be back probably in a few weeks' time with another video. Bye for now.